Hot off the press, the debt ceiling. Will it be raised or not? You probably heard it in the news. You probably heard politicians talking about it. It is for sure a political football. But let's say it doesn't get raised. What would happen? I'm going to watch a video today and react to a video that the corporate media is talking about how the debt ceiling affects you. And I wanted to kind of give a devil's advocate perspective. But before I do that, if you're a long-time subscriber or first-time subscriber or listener, could you do me a favor and share these videos out? Really helps out my channel. Have a feeling I'm getting shadow banned for a lot of different reasons, but really helps the channel grow and helps me spread this message. So if you could do me a favor, share this message out, I'd be much appreciative. So, much appreciative? Is that a word? It is today. All right, so let's take a look at this video. This is from CBS News, and they're talking about the debt ceiling. And I just want to dispel a misnomer or a misnomer before we start. Debt ceiling implies that it can't move, and it's been changed 87 times. So we'll start there. So obviously it's going to go up.
In this morning's Money Watch, we're going to unpack what the debt ceiling means to everyday Americans, with the government expected to hit that limit today. When you hear the term debt ceiling, you might roll your eyes and think to yourself, how does this affect me? Well, CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here to explain why it actually does. Jill, good morning. How you doing?
Good, doing well.
Okay, so what exactly is debt ceiling?
So it's basically the limit, and it's an arbitrary limit of the total amount of debt that the U.S. can actually borrow. It goes back to 1917.
Okay.
And because we generally spend more than we take in every year for all the various obligations we have, we run up debt. Periodically,
I'm just going to stop there real quick. You will, in your life, and this is part of the problem I talk about in my channel, that's not sustainable. If you spend more than you take in, is that sustainable? The answer is no. If it's not sustainable for you, why is it sustainable for the government? Math works the same way. The answer it's not sustainable for the government. The only difference is they have a money printer, so they can devalue the currency units that they're handing out.
debt ceiling needs to be raised. It's been raised 86 times since 1960. It's usually a bipartisan, non-event administrative. But what is clear is not raising the debt ceiling can have significant consequences on the economy and on us.
So I'm sitting at home, I'm watching you. I should be worried. Why?
Well, okay. When we don't have the debt ceiling raised, the U.S. Treasury Department has a series of bad decisions to make. So right now they're starting with kind of like the medium measures that don't really impact us. But we get closer to the summer, what is likely to happen is we could start seeing a real change. What would happen? We could see furloughing of government employees. So now we're talking about.
Okay, what? Now she's just enticing me for this government ceiling thing. Wait a second. Government employees won't get paid. We'll have to cut government employees? No. Say no. We've got to raise it.
Hundreds of thousands of people.
Wow.
We're talking about some of those government employees being forced to work, but not getting paid. We're also talking about things like delaying Social Security checks. Maybe you won't get your tax refund on time. Maybe you won't go to a national park. I just want to focus on one thing very particularly. When you don't have Social Security checks coming in, not only is it putting individuals at risk, it is putting the economy at risk.
Right.
Those Social Security checks are spent in this economy. We are in an economy right now that is teetering on the edge of recession. So this could cause trouble.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop her there. We have a treasury, right, for Social Security, and then we pay taxes for Social Security. So why is debt going up required? Because they have to allocate money differently now, because they don't have debt to allocate. So they have to change their priorities. Does that mean their priority is not Social Security checks? Yes. Because with our tax receipts, we can pay Social Security, we can pay Medicare and Medicaid. We can. We just have to cut other places. So it's just a priorities conversation to some degree, and it doesn't necessarily follow that Social Security wouldn't be paid, potentially for sure.
Tremendous tumult and could push us further into a recession than we would
Talking
have
about
been otherwise.
The ripple effect.
Well, when you lay it out like that, Jill, you go, well, why not just raise the debt ceiling?
Yeah.
Right, good, thank you.
When you lay it out like that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I exactly agree with that because this has become a strange battle in fighting a fight that's already been fought. And what do I mean by that? When you think about the debt ceiling, this is not running up new debt for something we haven't voted on. Congress, previous Congresses, Republicans and Democrats have voted on certain spending measures. Raising the debt ceiling pays for the measures that have already been voted on.
Okay.
So
Okay, this is kind of a dumb argument on her part because to say we have raised or we have already approved these things, it is similar to saying we already approved that every single person will have a unicorn. We already approved that, so we got to spend the money on it. It's like, well, it's impossible. The math doesn't work. It's like, well, no, the math doesn't work, lady. It just doesn't work. Okay, we don't we don't take in enough in taxes. So the people that are arguing, specifically Republicans, on we need concessions, we need to curb spending because we see the path in front of us and the path is not sustainable, right? There's a cliff over there. And if we keep going, we're going to fall off the cliff. And it's like, you want to kill grandma. Where have we heard that before? But she is laying out the cost really well, right? Not raising the debt ceiling will do this, 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 and this. Okay, so not raising the debt ceiling, or at least arguing about it and getting concessions, what's the benefit of that? We don't fall off the cliff. That's the benefit. Because the fiscal cliff is, okay, if it's not sustainable, it won't be sustained. Isn't that profound? if Social Security is not on a sustainable path, what will eventually happen? It will either be cut through limiting things like your age when you can draw from it, or it'll be cut through you will get every dollar you're promised, but it won't buy you half as much as you thought it would. Because we'll print it. That's what we'll do. We'll print it. Take out debt and we'll print it. Okay. So I love the one-sided arguments that these people give, but she's giving out the cost without the benefit. Okay. There is another side to this where you're like, why would these people do this? Why would these people want to argue about the debt ceiling? Is it really because they want to kill grandma, or is it because it's not sustainable? I hate when people do that. All right. Back to the video.
So this has become this strange way of saying we don't like the amount of money going out for Social Security or whatever program you care or don't care
That
about.
was already agreed upon.
It was already agreed upon, which makes
Can't afford
people
it.
like me nuts.
Republicans want to use this moment, though, to cut spending. They say, look, the debt ceiling is at 31 trillion. That's a huge number. I mean, on the other hand, feel better about your personal credit card bill, I suppose.
Yeah.
But do they have a point in saying, hey, this is out of control?
Well, I think they would have a point if they hadn't voted back, in 2017 for tax cuts that weren't paid for, or hadn't voted on a series of plans that we really did need during the pandemic. Everything in retrospect gets a different tint through a political lens.
Right.
I'm a money person. I don't really care about politics. I care when politicians screw up the economy and actually impact ordinary Americans' lives.
That should be your answering machine message.
That's it right there.
Money person.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Jill, you're a money person. So how do we sustain these programs? These were promises that were made when people lived to like 65, 70, right? And unfortunately, when you write blank checks over, a 50, 100-year time frame, those blank checks, the parameters change. The number of workers change, the number of retirees change, how long people live change. So if you write this blank check and say, we promised it, we got to figure it out, and you don't live in reality, which is we have this much in income, we have this much in expenses. If we keep the expenses going up and our income stays the same, we're screwed. That's what everybody has to come to grips with in their own budget. And the only difference in the government is they can print the difference. So they will either take money from you. There's really three options. Take more taxes from you, cut the program to a certain degree, cut their spending, and or inflation. Those are the three. Okay, they'll print it. So which is essentially like taking more money from you. You can guess what I think they'll do, but it's inflating, right? It's more debt. That's why this debt ceiling is such a big issue, because it is so politically unpalatable to give people the truth, which is we cannot afford it. We promised it to you, but we can't afford it. So now what? The problem was the government getting involved in it in the first place. So, and writing this blank check that they cannot cash. But it is a big deal. And if we do not raise the debt ceiling, and it seems like both sides don't want to budge, maybe people will realize that the the federal government's not that important. There are certain jobs in the federal government are not that important. That's the worst possible outcome for them. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to share this video out. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good one. Peace.